Okay, so we're going back to 9.3, which is solving problems with two variables. So we've kind of gotten into doing some word problems a little bit, but now we're going to make sure we really get into them, really go over word problems. Now that you're more familiar with all of our different methods, like especially the substitution and elimination method. Now, in these ones, it's not specifying which one you need to use, so whichever one you feel that will work best for the problem, you can use. So, when solving word problems, you need to make sure that you define your variable. Define variables. We're going to have two because we're doing it in two variables. So make sure you define them. X equals this, Y equals this. Or I like to use letters that involve with the problem. Up to you. Then you must set up two equations with two variables in each one. That's what we're going to need to do in these situations. Okay? Those are our two things. So make sure you do that. You're obviously going to have to solve using a method, but these are what you're going to do in order to set up. Now, these video notes, you might have to go back and rewatch some of the example problems after you kind of watch it and write it down and copy the first time. You really need to understand it. Okay, so... Alright, so example 1 says, John has 15 coins, all dimes and quarters, worth $2.55. How many dimes and how many quarters does John have? Okay, well, let's define our variables. You could use X and Y, but I really want to use D and Q because it makes more sense, less confusing for me. So D equals the number of dimes. Yes, you need to write this on all of your problems. Q equals number of quarters. You can pick your variables, doesn't matter. You need to define them. Okay, so now we're going to start writing our equations. You're going to need two of them. Well, let's see what it first says. He has 15 coins, all dimes and quarters. So how many coins does he have total? 15. So you're going to add the number of dimes plus the number of quarters. So we know D is the number of dimes and Q is the number of quarters. So we're going to say D plus Q equals 15. Simple enough. Now the next one's a little bit different. So it's worth $2.55. You got to be careful. So if you're going to do it with cents, then that's fine, but that involves decimal. If you do it like within dollars, that has decimals because of the cents. If you just do it in cents, you can use whole numbers, which is what I'm going to use this time. Personal preference. So I know that however much money he has in dimes plus however much money he has in quarters equals $2.55, or a total of 255 cents. I know, how much is a dime worth? A dime is worth 10 cents, so I'm going to say 10 times the number of dimes, because if I have 5 dimes, 5 times 10 is 50, so I would have 50 cents. But I need to add, how much is a quarter worth? 25 cents times Q, because however many quarters, if I were to have 4 quarters, I'd have 100 cents, which is $1. So this is how I set up. Now I can solve. I want to use elimination method. You can use either one. I'm going to use elimination method, and I'm going to multiply this one by negative 10, and I'm going to write it just below the second equation. So I'm going to have negative 10D minus 10Q equals a negative 150. So now I can add these together. That cancels. I'm left with 15Q equals 105. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 15. And I get Q equals 7. Okay? But I need to find out how many dimes I have. So I'm going to plug it back into the first equation. So I know D plus Q, which is 7, equals 15. If I subtract 7 from both sides, D equals 8. Now, once we're done, you might not have labeled D and Q. For these word problems, I want you to write out the answer. It says, how many do they have? He had 8 dimes. Doesn't have to be a complete sentence, but 8 dimes and 7 quarters. We're not doing an ordered pair. Why? Because everyone picked different variables possibly, so we don't know which one would be in alphabetical order. So there we go. That is my answer. Next question. Joseph and Chris together have $60. Joseph has $9 more than twice Chris's amount. Okay, well, I'm going to use J for the money, or wait, I'm going to say amount of money, the amount of money Joseph has. I'm going to say C equals the amount of money Chris has. So I know together they have 60, so if I add how much Joseph has and how much Chris has, I'm going to have a total of 60. I also know that Joseph has 9 more than twice Chris's amount. Okay, so I'm going to kind of write this out. So we need to do 2 times Chris's amount, and it says that Joseph has 9 more than that. So who is going to have more? Joseph is. So you either have to add 9 to Chris, the 2 times Chris's amount, or subtract 9 from Joseph. So I'm going to add 9 to 2 times Chris. So think about this again. Rethink it. Joseph has 9 more dollars. So if Joseph had $10, that means Chris would have 1. So you have to add 9 to Chris's to get to that point. But really, it's 2 times Chris's. Again, you really have to concentrate and think about how to set that one up. I understand it's a little confusing. Look at this. The way I set it up, it looks perfect for substitution. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to substitute J for 2C plus 9. So instead of J, I'm going to write 2C plus 9. And now I have to write plus C, because that's still there, equals 60. So I get 3C plus 9 equals 60. Subtract 9. 3C equals 51. Divide by 3. C equals 17. Now I need to find what J is. So I know that J plus C, which is 17, equals 60. Subtract 17. Oops. And we get J equals 43. So again, I want you to write it out. It again doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll say it asks you how much each has. Oh, it doesn't even ask. Okay. Find each amount. There you go. So Chris has $17. Joseph has $43. There we go. Now this last one's a little bit complicated because we have to do big numbers, percentages, which involves decimals, and we have to kind of know an equation. Okay? So we're going to read it. George has $8,000 invested in stocks and bonds. The stock pays 4% interest and the bond pays 7% interest. If his annual income from the stocks, or the interest from the stocks and bonds is $500, how much is invested in his bonds? So how much is invested is how much money he paid. How much money he paid. The income is the same as the interest, or the money he got from that stuff. So he got from them. Okay. Okay. We're gonna say S is the money he invested in stocks. And we're going to say that B is the money invested in bonds. And then I'm going to... Okay, so it says he spent $8,000. He invested $8,000 in stocks and bonds. So it's how much money he invested in stocks plus how much money he invested in bonds. So that will be S plus B equals 8,000. Okay? And then this is where it gets tricky. We need to know an equation. We know that so the money invested times the rate, which is the rate of interest, equals his interest, or the money he got out of it. Okay? So I'm going to use this equation to help me write another equation, because I know however much interest he got from the stocks plus however much interest he got from the bonds equals 500. How much money did he get from the stocks? Well, the stock gives you, so we're going to say 0.04% because that's how much, or 0.04, which is that's 4% for stocks, and it's however much money he put for the stock. So if he put $10,000, you would do 10,000 by 0.04, and that would be how much money he got as interest. But we don't know how much money he put in for stocks. We also need to add 0.07 times B because that is how much interest he gets from bonds. So however much he spent, he spent on bonds, which is B, times his interest, or times his rate will give you the interest. So now that we have this, I don't want to have fractions, okay? I don't want to have decimals. So I'm going to multiply this bottom one by 10 for the purpose of getting rid of the decimals. So now I have 4s plus 7b equals, and it's going to be 50,000. Wait, just kidding. It's going to be not 50,000. It is going to be 5,000. There we go. Okay? And I still have s plus b equals 8,000. Okay? So, oh wait, I realized why. I had to multiply by 100. So we do have 50,000 because the 100 would do 1, 2 over 1, 2. Okay, there we go. So I'm actually going to use substitution for this one, and I'm going to say S equals 8,000 minus B. This is the one I decided to use. So I'm going to be plugging this in for S. So I know that 4 times S, which is 8,000 minus B, plus 7B equals 50,000. I know that, I'm going to scroll this up, I know that if I multiply that out, that's 32,000 minus 4B plus 7B equals 50,000. I'm going to combine like terms, so I have 32,000 plus 3B equals 50,000. Subtract 32,000. And that gives you 3B equals 18,000. Divide by 3. So B equals 6,000. The question asked us up here, how much did he invest in bonds? And we actually got B. What does B equal? B equals the money he invested in bonds. So we already answered our question. If it asked about stocks, then we'd have to plug it back in, but we don't. So it says, how much did he invest? So he invested $6,000 in bonds. So there's your video notes. Hopefully you're getting a little bit better understanding of word problems. Please, if you just copied this down and didn't see how we went through it, please watch this again so that you can really understand why did I multiply, or how did I get to 32,000? Oh, I multiplied 4 times 8,000, so on and so forth.